Hello. Hello, hello, hello. So I'm streaming, obviously. You see me right now. So the reason for this stream is I'm going to try and understand sinuses. What are sinuses? What can cause issues with sinuses? And yeah, so I'm basically just trying to understand sinuses and sinus issues. My reasoning for this is because I deal with a ton of mysterious health issues, and I believe part of that is related to my sinuses. At least one of the signals I'm receiving is coming from my sinuses. So I thought I would learn about it, and maybe that'll help me in figuring out my own health issues. And I have written down a bunch of questions that I thought would be good to go with. So, first thing, obviously I relate it to myself. So I have this issue where popping sounds come from my nose all the time throughout the day. I get popping sounds that just come out of my nose. It's almost like a crackling popping sound. And it doesn't hurt. I'd say it's actually the opposite. Sometimes when it happens, it kind of feels like relief. It feels like, oh, something was blocking my nose and now it is not. Or maybe not even my nose, but maybe the sinus. So I thought in the beginning it was a nose issue, but now I'm leaning more towards sinuses. Because I have done a little bit of prior research before this. So yeah, it's like what causes popping coming from deep inside nose? So let's see. This is the first link that comes up. Let's check it out. Let's actually open a bunch. So here's a more social media type one over here. First we'll check this one out though. So it's saying that if you have some popping sound in your nose, jaw, or cheek, it can signal that you have an infection in your sinuses. Symptoms. You can apparently, if you have a sinus infection, it can show up as pain in your face, watery eyes, or similar sinus symptoms. So I actually do have a lot of pain and pressure in my face and my nose. So, and I get watery eyes and dry eyes quite often. Well, usually I get watery eyes because of dry eyes, so a little funny. Other symptoms that you may or may not have: sinus pressure. Yep, I have that. Post-nasal drip, nasal congestion. I have all that all the time for over a year now. Really just, okay, so having a clicking sound in nose or facial areas usually just means that you have some fluid buildup that is moving around when you move the muscles of your face or jaw. Okay, so it's saying that there's some fluid buildup and it's moving around when you move the muscles of your face or jaw. That's actually quite interesting. Huh. Okay. Nasal congestion can make it difficult to breathe through the nose. Yes, indeed. That's why it's often very hard for me to find the breath to talk. Another issue, which I think may be related to the nasal and sinus issues, says when you attempt to breathe, you move air and fluid around in those cavities. This fluid can be thick or thin and create a noise as it's moving around. That is like incredibly interesting to think about. Really bizarre, like what we are. Like if they have a picture. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of sinuses, but I'll show you some in a bit. Just like, whoa, each one of us has that, and it's like so weird looking. Okay, so let's see. To understand the clicking sound in nose symptoms that you might have, you should first think of anatomy of your sinus cavities. Your sinuses are just hollow spaces located in a few positions in your skull. Skull. think this is important for me. So, sinuses are basically just hollowed spaces located in your skull. Any pocket of hollowed space can be inhabited by fluid and air. When fluid and air come together in a small space, there's usually some noise. Okay. So I'm going to take this. So I also have this question. What are sinuses? I think this kind of answers it. Let's see. So I want to add some more. Having a clicking sound in nose or facial areas usually just means that you have some fluid buildup that is moving around when you move the muscles of your face or jaw. But that seems important to me. And that kind of answers the first question. It does say usually. Usually just means that you have some fluid built up that is moving around when you move the muscles of your face or jaw. Okay, so that's good. But here's a more social media type question. Person basically asks, why do I keep feeling popping noises deep inside my nose and a feeling of pressure to the side of my nose? This is very similar to me. Swelling of the mucosal lining of the nose will give rise to these feelings. Could be a sinus infection, could be deviation of nasal septum. I'm gonna record that one down. I'm pretty sure this isn't me because I've already had my nose checked at one point and I feel like they probably would have seen that. Could be, but I'll put it down just in case. Another cause, which many people are wondering, was clean the nose with a finger, blah blah blah. Well, that's definitely not it. Okay, what else? Blah blah blah. Okay, none of these answers are really good. Okay, continuing on. Let's check this one out. And then I think that will be the last one for this question. Telltale sign that something isn't quite right if you have popping noises. Yeah, I would agree with that. Pretty common. You know that feeling where it seems like there are bubbles inside your nose, which usually happens when you're lying down or even just breathing. A sign that your sinuses are inflamed. Yep, that makes sense. When your sinus passages swell up, it prevents your eustachian tubes from closing or opening properly. If you didn't know, the eustachian tubes are passageways that connect your middle ear and nasal cavities. It's responsible for maintaining the pressure in your middle ear. When your nasal cavities are clogged, it causes changes in pressure in your eustachian tubes. It causes that weird popping sound that probably feels very familiar to you right now. This is a little bit of a different take than the previous person. Kind of interesting. Okay, so let me record this down. Wait, is this talking about like clicking in your nose or ear? It says nose right there. Most likely sinus inflammation. which goes along with fluid buildup, I think. Then there's this. So when your sinus passages swell up, it prevents your eustachian tubes from closing or opening properly. You didn't know, eustachian tubes are passageways that connect your middle ear and nasal cavities, responsible for maintaining the pressure in your middle ear. When your nasal cavities are clogged, it causes changes in pressure in your eustachian tubes. This causes that weird popping sound that probably feels very familiar to you right now. I'm just gonna take that out. So that's a little bit different than this. So this is saying that it's caused by changes in pressure in your eustachian tubes, while this one's talking about fluid buildup and fluid moving around in your sinuses, and that's what causes sounds. So this is kind of like two different hypotheses. Kind of interesting. Okay, I think this is actually my next question that I had, right? Yeah, what causes sinus infection? So there's many factors. In most cases, it's probably just allergic rhinitis or common colds. Because of the following. So that's a little bit different. My question is what causes sinus infections? The question here is what causes sinus inflammation. So I guess, So I think the popping sound can be caused by both sinus infection and sinus inflammation. But you can have a sinus inflammation without a sinus infection. So maybe it's better to look at it from an inflammation standpoint. It's kind of interesting. So let's causes, I guess let's put a new question. So let's say, what causes sinus inflammation? Which is kind of the same question as up here. Yeah, I'm just gonna combine that. So I'll do that. Then let's go here. I have deviated septum. So there's also this. Also be nasal polyps. Could be. Oops. So it could be nasal polyps, but don't think that is case for me, because I've had like 2 nasal endoscopies or whatever you call it. Could be immune system related diseases, which that might fit me, I'm not sure. Okay, so let's see. What causes... Hello. So sinus infections can be treated with over-the-counter medication. The deviated septum and nasal polyps require surgery. Makes sense. Okay, I think that's about the most that I can get out of this this page. So I think I'm gonna look into the second question a little bit more. Just I want to know in more detail, what are the sinuses? So I'm just gonna check out the first page. Okay. Oh, this is what is sinusitis, isn't it? Okay, well this is also relevant. I do. So I'm basically dealing with a bunch of really mysterious health issues. It's been going on for years, gets worse every single year, and I'm trying to break down all the issues and figure them out and learn as much as I can about just the human body and what these issues are. So, because I've gone to doctors, I think last year I spent over $15,000 in medical bills and got nothing from it. So if doctors can't figure it out, I'm gonna try and figure it out myself. So I'm also in this happening. It's like it kind of forces me to change the way I view things. So I'm still working on this, but I'm trying to like not view it in such a gloomy light. I'm trying to like look at like some of the positives of it. Like for example, I love science and stuff, so this allows me to study into the human body and science, so that's pretty cool. Let's see. So yeah, I don't think this page is what I'm looking for. WebMD. Okay. I don't know if you've ever looked at pictures of sinuses, but it's so interesting. Like just looking at this, it's like every single one of us has like this in our face, in our skull. It's so interesting. Cheek hurting? Well, yep, I'd say that's sinuses, and I'd say that's probably the maxillary sinus. It seems like, from what I've been looking into right now, you can get like fluid buildup, and the fluid buildup can cause issues, and you can also just, your sinuses can get inflamed for various reasons as well, and of course that can cause issues. Okay. They're about an inch across. So your cheekbones hold the maxillary sinuses. The lower center of your forehead is where your frontal sinuses are located. Between your eyes are the ethmoid sinuses. Those ones are kind of small. Oh, that might be relevant to me. Because this is where I actually have a lot of pressure and issues. Like almost all the time, I just have pressure right here. Like at the bridge of my nose. Oh, I'm gonna try to remember that. Watched a video by William Osman where he had to get his unblocked bit unpleasant. Oof. I have not seen any videos of that yet, but yeah, that sounds like that would be unpleasant. In the bones behind your nose are your sphenoid sinuses. Bones behind your nose. Okay, so... Oh, so these sinuses in the background are different from the ones in the front. That's pretty interesting. They're lined with soft pink tissues called mucosa. Let's see. What have I got so far? Yada yada yada. I think this is important. Normally the sinuses are empty, except for a thin layer of mucus. Okay. I'm gonna write that down in my notes. So the sinuses are lined with soft pink tissue called mucosa. And normally there's a thin layer of mucus. When you press the bridge of your nose with your index finger and thumb with some pressure, it alleviates the feeling. When you press the bridge of your nose, your index. Sorry, I've never actually really tried that before. Maybe, I can't really tell. I might have to experiment with trying that. Are you saying, so are you saying pretty much where your, like, eyes meet your nose, or, like, in the middle of the nose? So there's, like, this, where you, like, grab your, you grab your nose, that thing that people do when they're kind of, like, annoyed, and then there's, like, kind of, like, the nose down here. 1 centimeter below that. Got it. No, I can't tell. I also fluctuate where some days it's worse than other days. And today is, I'm quite thankful, one of those good days. Like, I still have it a little bit, but it's not as noticeable as usual. One thing I've also noticed is that I get a red patch right there in that spot all the time. Like, it's almost always red right there. Okay. So, the inside of the nose has ridges called turbinates. Normally, these structures help humidify and filter air. Man, our nose is like a AC unit. A thin wall, called the septum, divides the nose. Most of the sinuses drain into the nose through a small channel or drainage pathway that doctors call the middle meatus. Meatus? You get infection symptoms probably bi-weekly. So bi-weekly isn't considered chronic. I guess chronic would be like daily or something. Alright, I need to write this down. I think this is important too. I'd like to understand this. Normally, these structures help humidify and filter air. Okay, copy that. So, it's ridges called turbinates. Normally, these structures help humidify and filter air. A thin wall, called the septum, divides the nose. Okay, I feel like I need pictures of this stuff. It's not clicking in my mind as quite as much as I want it to. Most of the sinuses drain into the nose through a small channel or drainage pathway that doctors call the middle meatus. Okay, put that down. Okay, why do we have sinuses? Experts don't know. One theory is that they help humidify the air we breathe in. Another is that they enhance our voices. You're telling me we don't even know why we have sinuses? They cause us all these issues and we don't even know why they're there? I'm gonna write that down. Does your nose whistle sometimes even when they're 100% clean? What do you mean by clean? Do you mean like just like not congested, like clear nose? Cute. Okay, so here is a list of sinus conditions. So acute sinusitis. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it mainly whistles when it's at its worst, like the sinus issues. But yeah, my nose will be completely clear, and it'll definitely whistle, which is what made me switch from thinking I had a nose issue to now thinking I have a sinus issue. Okay, so acute sinusitis, sinus infection. Viruses, bacteria, or fungi infect the sinus cavity, causing inflammation. More mucus, nasal congestion, discomfort in the cheeks, forehead, or around the eyes, and headaches are common symptoms. I have basically all of these. I don't know. I don't have it as much in my cheeks. It's mainly like right below my eyes. Chronic sinusitis. More than just a series of infections, chronic sinus is a persistent process of inflammation of the sinuses. So I've already been over the deviated septum. Hay fever. Allergens. Okay, that makes sense. I think I should probably record these down in my notes too. Okay, so nasal polyps are small growths in the nasal cavity. It can happen due to inflammation from asthma, chronic infections. Okay. Turbinate hypertrophy. Hypertrophy. I feel like there should be an R there. I wonder if they spelled that wrong. My mind wants to know. Yes, I think they spelled it wrong. Actually, maybe I should look up both words. Yes, they spelled it wrong, okay. The ridges on the nasal septum are enlarged, which can block airflow. See the turbinates, which may be swollen. Okay. Alright, this is actually a very good list. The nostril, which whistles, is the same side of your face. And a cheek that hurts. It's good to notice that though. Okay, I'm just gonna... This is a lot of information, and I usually don't like to just take a lot of information like this. But I think it's good information. So wait, what is this? Sinus conditions. So I'm just gonna put it down here. So sinus conditions. And I'll study that a little bit later. So this is gonna tell how a doctor will test. And I definitely want to know this because if I go to the doctor, I want them to test in the best way that's not gonna like hurt my body. Like taking antibiotics all the time isn't gonna be good. So if I can have a solution that doesn't use like ultraviolet rays or not ultraviolet, x-rays or antibiotics, that would be nice. Okay. There's just so much information here. Okay, so they can use physical examination. They can use a CT scan, MRI, rhinoscopy, think this is what I've already had done twice. And both times they see no issues. I think they saw like a little bit of inflammation. Which I guess that's better than like a bad issue, but a little bit annoying still. I feel like you want to go to the doctor and then like they just solve all your issues. That's like the feeling I always have, and it's like obviously that's not gonna happen. They could take sinus cultures, test for allergies. You can check out the bones around your sinuses using an X-ray. Okay, so that was sinus tests. These are treatments. Been hearing a lot about antihistamines recently. Medicines that can reduce the nasal and sinus symptoms from allergic rhinitis. Blood vessels in the intranasal tissue to constrict. Okay, I'm just gonna take all this information. I think this is all pretty good. So, not exactly what I was looking for, but this is all good stuff to know. I don't need that. Okay, awesome. And then I'll probably study that stuff some more another time. Like to continue on though. Okay, so I think I have a pretty good idea of what the sinuses are, but I'd like to reference some of this stuff with pictures. So, without looking at this, sinuses are basically these hollow cavities in your skull. They're in various different places, like top of your forehead, your nose, your cheeks. Experts don't know what they're for. They think maybe humidify the air we breathe in. Maybe they enhance our voice. That's about all I remember. So I'm gonna read off the screen now. So, sinuses are lined with soft pink tissue called mucosa. Normally sinuses are empty except for a thin layer of mucus. The inside of the nose has ridges called turbinates. I wanted to see what these look like. So turbinates. Whoa, that looks weird. Okay. Turbinate. So they're ridges in the nose. They look like little like sacs, like I don't know how else to explain that. Kind of interesting. Great nasal septum. Okay, looks like a good picture. Alright, so nasal turbinates. So yeah, these little sac-like things are what the turbinates are. You got the superior turbinate, middle turbinate, and inferior turbinate. So is this just like... It's hard to image like what parts of this is like tube, like which parts of it is like a hole and which parts is not. Like I guess this is just like the inside, like that's the hole of your nose, I guess. I don't know what the default is. I haven't changed any settings, so you can try to send it, and we'll see if it works. Alright, so yeah, those little weird things are turbinates. I'm gonna write down my own definition for that. Okay, so the inside of the nose has ridges called turbinates. To me, they look like little sacs that curl over. So apparently they help humidify and filter air. Thin wall, called the septum, divides the nose. So let's look up what is septum. I just want to see a picture of it pretty much. That's what a deviated septum looks like. Okay, so yeah, it's literally just the thing that is in the middle of the nose. And deviated septum looks like that. I don't think I have a deviated septum. I think you would... I feel like that'd be kind of obvious to... That's what was going on. Okay, most of the sinuses drain into the nose through a small channel drainage pathway. Doctors call the middle. How do you pronounce this word? Pronounce.
Meatus.
It literally is the meatus, okay. So what is meatus? Oh god. Oh no. Let me, what is the nasal meatus? I don't know what that was. Okay. None of these pictures are really giving me a good idea of what it is. I'll check that link out in just a second. Okay, so meatus. Where meatus? Okay, so it just looks like a... It looks like a crevice. It looks like a crevice that is relative to the thing. The, what are those things called? The turbinates. Most of the sinuses drain into the nose through a small channel or drainage pathway that doctors call... Okay, so... Most sinuses drain into the nose through the meatus. Oh, and that's a sinus, so that makes sense. So the sinus drains into the nose through the meatus. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you for following. Thank you. I appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck with your issues as well. Seems like you've kind of got them under control. From my understanding of what you've said. Okay, I think I understand what the meatus is now. Doctor's call. So I'm just gonna call it the sinus draining tubes. Do that. Take this. So divides the nose, a thin wall called the septum. Okay. Just trying to simplify the information so I don't have information overload here. So turbinates are little sacs that curl over. Cosa. Hollowed spaces. Okay. I'm gonna bold this. I think I have a pretty good idea of what the sinuses are and what most of the pieces that make them up are and are related to them. Okay. Let's see.
I can like see light coming from somewhere, but I can't tell where it's coming from.
I got a nose job.
We're gonna get weird. We're all gonna go get sinus surgery. No, your boy here is gonna get sinus surgery because he has bad sinuses. I've had a problem for a long time where sinus infections happen really easily and your ears get...
I just want to say, just from the way he's talking, it sounds like he has sinus issues. Like the sound of his voice sounds like someone with sinus issues.
messed up and your equilibrium gets messed up and it causes like this really mild vertigo which makes it difficult to function. It's a constant slight dizziness that makes it really difficult to like sit down and work. I went and got a CAT scan, which is really cool. So now we've got a 3D scan of my head, or most of my head. Do you know what sinuses are? They're like these horrifyingly large cavities like behind your cheekbones, your forehead, deeper in your head, like right in here. The drainage from them to your throat is too small, just genetically too small. So what they're gonna do, they stick a tube that's got a balloon over it into your sinus openings, and they blow them up and basically explode out your sinus drainage. And that helps it from like seizing up, which is what has been happening. It's a little bit of inflammation causes the opening to completely close, which just wreaks havoc, and your boy here suffers. Can I say your boy? It's like, it's kind of a joke, but now it starts to sound like I use it on a more regular basis.
Cameraman said no. Okay, I do want to watch this, but this is getting in the way of studying, so I'm gonna watch that later in my free time when I want to watch something fun. Alright, so got a good idea of what causes popping noises from deep inside the nose. Got a good idea of what causes sinus inflammation. Got a good idea of what the sinuses are in general. So what about sinus infection particularly? Is that even an important question anymore? Because I got what causes sinus inflammation. Sinus infection is kind of part of it. Let's just look it up. So let's go here. Let's take this question. And in fluid. Yes, yep. Viruses cause most sinus infections, but bacteria can cause some infections. Okay, that's important. So viruses cause most, but bacteria can cause some. I want like a simple page. I don't want anything complicated, really. Several factors can increase your risk of getting a sinus infection. Runny nose, yada yada. This is not what I want. Exactly. So when is antibiotics actually needed when you have a sinus infection? That is my question. Tissue lining. Yada yada. I already know this. Starting to lose track of what I'm even looking for here. What am I looking for? What causes sinus infection? I don't like this page. Let's check this one out. Okay, so this sounds very similar to what I deal with, which is a bacterial sinusitis. Well, I also have something like this, so maybe not. Blah blah blah. Nasal allergy is inflammation of the nose due to irritating particles. What causes it? Yes, thank you. Can't spread bacterial sinusitis. You can spread viruses that lead to sinusitis. Interesting. Okay. I don't know if I'm gonna find any more information, really. It seems like sinus infection and sinus inflammation are both like piled up into the same kind of category. But I'm still gonna do a little bit more searching. Blah blah blah. Yep. It's like the same thing on every page, pretty much. Wow, that's scary. Well, infection of the sinus cavity close to the brain can be life-threatening. I think this is a good reason why you should try to figure it out, because scary stuff like that. I mean, your sinuses are close to your brain, so it's like... I mean... yeah. Not much you can do, but... I guess that's a good reason to, take antibiotics if they give you antibiotics. Because... yeah, I think I'm gonna write that down. Infection of the sinus cavity close to the brain can be life-threatening if not treated. In rare cases, it can spread to the brain. It's pretty important. That's pretty important. I'm gonna make a little title here. I'm gonna say scary stuff related to sinus issues. All right. I don't think I need this one. I think I already answered it up here. Although, did I say viruses or bacteria up here? Can be caused by virus or bacteria. Then that would be a sinus infection. All right, so just gonna check this page out real quick. Yep. Oh, that's kind of interesting. I feel like I should really try out antihistamines. Let me go through these in a second here. Oh, there's herbal treatments apparently. Jello Myrtle Forte. Essential oils. Didn't give many answers here. I would definitely like to look into herbal treatments if that is possible. Do not want to try antibiotic. Oh, that's interesting. Eee. Good lord, that's horrifying. Okay, I think that's enough. I think that's enough searching on that stuff. So did I answer this question? How does a doctor determine if it's a sinus infection? Let's look it up. Or actually, wait a second. So sinus conditions, sinus tests. So I pretty much answered it with these sinus tests. So I'm gonna take this and use that to, this is gonna be the answer for that question. Ooh, I didn't mean to do that. So there, that is the answer. A doctor determines if it's a sinus infection by using all these different ways of testing. They probably won't do most of these right away. They'll probably want to do some more basic stuff first and then go from there, if I had to guess. How does a doctor treat sinus infection? I also have that answer down here. So I'll take this. Okay, and then I'm going to paste that right there. And cool, so yeah, we've already been through a lot of these. Not all of this information is kind of like stuck with me yet, because there's a lot here. So I definitely need to study this a lot more before I kind of memorized all of it. I'm wondering, that might be it. Because I got all the answers to all the questions I wanted. Now it's just a matter of figuring out how to memorize all of it and yeah, store it in my brain pretty much. So I would like to do a recap of this, but I think I might do that as a video instead, and yeah, do a recap video. And if I did a recap right now, there would be too much, it would be like information overload, so I want to put it into a format that isn't information overload. So yeah, but I think I'm going to end the stream here. I think I tried to understand what are sinuses, what causes sinus issues, what causes popping coming from deep inside the nose, and pretty much all the questions related to that, like what are the pieces inside of your nose, you have your sinuses, you have the meatus, which is like that drainage pipeway for the sinuses, you have the turbinates, which are the little like curled sacs in your nose, they help humidify and filter air. You have the septum. Deviated septum can cause sinus issues. Virus or bacteria can cause sinus issues. Fluid buildup. You can just have like allergies pretty much, and it can cause like fluid buildup, and that can cause sinus issues. You can have nasal polyps, which doctors can see with a telescope, or not telescope, but a little thing that goes in your nose. Sinus issues can be caused by immune system related diseases, can be caused by nasal cavities being clogged, which is pretty much the same thing we said earlier, but this specific one has to do with the eustachian tubes. And then there's a bunch of different ways to determine if you have a sinus issue, and there's a bunch of different ways to treat it. I'd say, yeah, I have a much better understanding, and it's definitely not going to stick if I don't study it, because there's a lot of information here. I guess if there was anything that I wanted to stick, I just want to stick what are sinuses, and they're just hollowed spaces in your skull. And I'd also like to remember the individual pieces that I just covered inside the nose and sinuses area, but if anything, I just want to remember what sinuses are, and I'll be happy with that. So cool. I think this was a successful session of me trying to understand something new. If kind of feels weird saying this on stream, but this is also going to be a YouTube video. It's actually the first one I'm doing. So it feels weird saying this on stream, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Thank you guys for watching. If I don't know what I'm trying to say here. If you found any interest in the stuff that I said here, feel free to like, subscribe, follow, whatever, and I'll see you next time.